No mai, haere mai ki Aotearoa Rugby Pod. Welcome to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod, brought to you by Ashley and Martin Medical Hair Centres. World Club Rugby is about to get flipped on its head, with the 4-yearly World Club Championship to start in 2028. We're going to dive into that and how that might work, and also, if it was held in 2025, who would win? The Chiefs would be hot contenders, and after hammering Moana Pacifica by 78 points, they look odds-on to top the table in Super Rugby this year. We'll look into the permutations, as well as busting the myth that home advantage in the playoffs is the be-all and end-all. History suggests it's not. There were some stunning performances on the weekend from Leroy Carter, Fabian Holland, and other players who could be in the All Blacks conversation. We'll dive into that. And she's already the best sevens player in the world, but is Jorja Miller going to be a game changer for the Black Ferns in World Cup year? Her debut against USA was pretty damn good. Of course, our weekly Rugby Ready giveaway, where you can win training packages designed by All Blacks coach Nick Gill and his team. Stick around for this week's keyword, and we'll also have your emails and comments, the tipping comp, and the usual in-depth analysis, and that always comes from James Parsons. Jipper, you going well, mate?
Yeah, very well. Yeah, got all my picks, but I just didn't see, obviously, the Crusaders and Holland has been as tight as that. And I suppose the Moana Pacifica game being, wow.
You were sidelined to that bloodbath.
That was a clinic, man. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a side play like that for 80 minutes.
Yeah.
Every reason to button off, but it was just ruthless from woe to go.
Yeah, speaking of ruthless, someone got ruthless on Bryn Hall in the Japanese club semi-finals on the weekend. Brenna, give us a look at that little gash on that beautiful head of yours.
Yep, where is it? This way?
Oh.
Yep, nice little, what is it, 10 stitches from my old teammate, Lapis. Yeah, mate, I can't say it was a good story or anything. I was just more so, it was a quick tap. I was trying to get back 10, and then I've kind of gone a race forward, and there's been an hour that's come from my own teammates. So been stitched up, and I've got a headband looking like Buck Shelford with the headband on. So I like to think I'm Buck.
But the tall and the short of it is, you're going to play for a title against your old mate who you've won all your titles with, Richie Moana at Toshiba.
Yep, unfortunately not going to be playing with him. Yeah, look, he's been in stellar form. I think he had an outstanding game on the weekend against Corbett, Gatlin and Corbett Steelers, who had a good win against Yamaha the week before. But yeah, he's in some fine form. So no doubt we'll be doing a bit of preview. But there's actually a lot of Kiwi boys that are in that team as well. Rob Thompson, Seta Tamanivalu, Jacob Pearce, so yeah, Mike Collins. So yeah, there's actually a good mix of Kiwis that'll be in that Toshiba. So which would be nice to see those boys after the game.
Yeah, another title for Brenner, eh? Maybe we'll see. We'll see.
He's got it
next week.
He's got plenty. He does have a knack of getting them.
Yeah.
He's. What would this be? Your 8th professional Harbour Championship and 6 Crusaders?
Yeah, it will be. So it's going to be a tough task, though. I think, look, we've seen Richie Moana in finals, footy, Jipper and Ross. So yeah, he's going to be a big point for them. So yeah, we'll just have to hopefully get the week right and throw the kitchen stick at them for 80 minutes.
I've seen Malcolm Marks too. He goes pretty good.
He's an unbelievable player, and it was massive for us on the weekend, scoring a try and setting up one as well. And almost a 50-22 Jipper.
He's a triple threat. I don't want to hear anything else.
Yeah. Okay, let's get this back on track, eh? Let's get into some Super Rugby, and let's look at the weekend with the Ashley and Martin turning point, because while we look at this season and we've got the Chiefs, the Crusaders and the Brumbies still very much in the running to top the table, what the Chiefs did on the weekend as far as putting everyone else on notice with the performance of the year was an absolute turning point, Jipper.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it was just such a clinic, and the biggest thing for me was their carry clean. Like, we spoke about it a few weeks ago around, okay, what makes a good breakdown, and we spoke about how crucial it is to win the carry, get over the advantage line, dominate the collision that allows the clean. But what they also did is it's sort of like how the All Blacks used to target Pocock. Very much, they looked to run at Artie a lot to make him tackle, so he couldn't have the influence that we've seen in and around the breakdown. And obviously that it takes a lot of energy as well out of you, and that they were just purposeful. They weren't looking to do anything flash. If the forwards got the ball or the midfield got the ball, they really sized up who they were going to run at, and it was always going to be one of those loose forward trios to try and take them out of the game, and they did exactly that. And I think Quinta Pia's try and Daniel Rona's clean is the prime example. Good, strong carry over the gain line, sharp line in terms of the clean, just grabs Artie. They went back to have a look to see, if it was illegal. But as we spoke about a few weeks ago, if you're within the metre of that carry where that ruck's set, you're fair game. And Rona grabs him just with the arm, eventually falling him down, and that creates a space for Tupaia to go through. But I think that try as well shows the mindset is they all knew what they were trying to do. Like, it didn't matter if you wore jerseys 1 to 8 or 9 to 15. They knew we're going to have to go through this forward pack and through this side and dominate these collisions to allow us to spread it wide. They didn't get it always right when they went wide, but for the most part, whenever they went direct in nature with their carry and their clean, it was just, it was amazing to watch just how they executed it over and over and over again.
The brutality and the relentlessness over and over again for 80 minutes to be able to win breakdowns was probably the best that I've ever seen. Now, you've seen in the past probably teams that have had 40 minutes. You know, there's been some great performances of 40 minutes, 15 minutes, but you're looking at 80 minutes. It was a tough day for the Moana Pacifica team. And look, to be honest, like the way the array of things that opened up for the Chiefs, like the crossfield kicks, you know, shooters crossfield kicks, the click attack, the chip and chase from Leroy Carter, the line-out maul try, the scrum attack, being able to go down the blind side with Leroy Carter, or even off like close to the line, they've run a 12, so Tupoia's got the ball, a down line, and then they've hit shooter for that first try. So if you're looking at every single part of the attacking way, the Chiefs were able to do on the weekend. They scored in multiple ways. The only way they didn't score was probably off a line-out strike off first phase, and that's the only thing that they didn't get the chance to. But in all other areas, because of the brutality and that collision around the breakdown, it set up everything for their game. So yeah, very dangerous signs for teams that are going to play the Chiefs. But I guess the challenge for them is, can they consistently keep doing it? Now, they're not going to get an 80-minute performance like that again, but geez, if they can keep that brutality around the collision area, I don't see any team seriously being able to beat the Chiefs if they play like they did on the weekend. Because
of the depth of the ruck, they just got caught offside. They couldn't retreat quick enough. The speed of the ball, it just mounted in yellow cards, and then you're just chasing the game. But I think just the timing was right. A big emotional high beat the Blues. Massively physical game against the Blues. Like, you don't underestimate what that took out of them. And then to try and rise again away from home, you know, there was a lot feeding into the hands of the Chiefs, and a lot that was, you know, a big hurdle to overcome from Moana Pacifica. But silver lining, I think they'll be in a really good frame of mind, and because you can almost just bin it. You know, if you lose tight, you have to go, oh, where did we lose this? It's like everyone knows where you lost it. You can just bin it and go, okay, this is our final. Going down to Wellington, you know, where Artie has come from, you know, like, I just sense that demolition job may work into their favour in a strange way mentally.
Is it that simple that you can just bin it? Like, are there ghosts floating around in your head about this?
I think you're desperate to get back to training because you're embarrassed. I've had a bit of experience. But you are, like, when you have a big win or a close win and emotion, you know, you're almost like, oh gosh, I'm sore and stuff. When you have a result like that, man, you just got no excuse. You've just got nowhere to hide. You have to be first on the floor. And you just want to. You need to. You need to for yourself, to just remind yourself that you're a good player.
Yeah.
You know, like, so there's just such an edge and a finer focus to the small things off the back of results like that. And I just think for this Moana Pacifica side, and we see what Artie's brought in terms of that Monday to Friday preparation, I just think it's going to be tight. Yeah. The Cake Tin.
There were some absolutely outstanding performances on the weekend. You mentioned Simon Parker, who's probably been like the guy who's just gone under the radar.
Yeah, but
done
I think he's knocking
things
on the door.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, not to be, you know, putting pressure on him, but and an already jam-packed loose forward trio mix to pick. He is good.
Yeah.
You know, he was the highest carrier for the Chiefs. Got a number of breakdown turnovers. You know, they didn't get a lot of opportunity to tackle, so I think Luke Jacobson topped the tackle stats at around 8 or 9. But what he did in and around the defensive breakdown to get those turnovers off the back of good tackles was massive. And I don't know, I think he's one to watch. We have been doing a little bit of a bolter watch each week to try and get those views on social media, and he's certainly one that if he can perform into the finals, there's no reason he can't put some pressure on.
Okay, speaking of bolter watch, your latest bulletin's coming up now. Christopher Courtney sent us an email. He didn't just send us an email, he sent us an email in the middle of the game. While he was watching the Chiefs game with a question for us. The question was, how good is Leroy Carter? The answer is very good. Wow, his link-up play, running lines are outstanding. Get that black jersey on him before Ireland snap up another Chiefs 11. Brynner, Leroy Carter, looking at this bloke, do you think that he could be a guy in the All Blacks? Let's say Mark Talaire's not there. We're looking for another winger. Is he the answer?
Well, he's definitely put himself in contention, and I think what I've enjoyed about him is that he's just been consistent. And we've got to remember as well, like he hasn't played, 15s rugby for quite a long time with the consistency with a lot of other guys in the country. So I think that also comes down to the Chiefs environment and how they've been able to mould him and been able to get him to a position to succeed, because like he has been so good for the whole year, very, very consistent. Like you look at his work rate, he's very, very good around his work rate, has a high attrition rate in terms of the breakdown area as well, and in the collision area. He's really good around that space. And what I love to see on the weekend was his attacking kicks. Now, we know that he can run fast. He's been able to score a lot of tries this year, but I loved his little deft touches in terms of being able to get that ball over the top with a chip and chase, or even being able to kick long as well in some other games as well. So, yeah, look, I know, is he a power winger?
He's got the nickname Boomfer. Leroy Boomfer Carter. He's got a bit of explosive, fast twitch fibres in there. When, like, a Ruben Love can play wing, Shea Fihaki's so good aerially, and we know the aerial game is massive at international level. Those probably be the key areas to sort of show, to finish off, because attacking-wise and defensively, and his breakdown defensive work on the edge, like there's no better. Like, it's like a Sevens DNA to be amazing at that defensive breakdown. So in terms of ball in hand, the effort areas of, like, you watch a line break with a opposition or his own team, boom, he just reacts straight away and explodes into it. His kick chase, unbelievable. His work to get back to help the backfield. So all those effort areas, and the reason why, and Crud's, Aaron Cruden said it as well in the post-match, is that's what makes test match footballers. The flash stuff is a given. You must do that. But the effort areas off the ball, and what's a little bit, underneath that in the 77th minute, he will appear. He's not going to let you down. So I think that's a big part of what makes him pretty special. In saying that, you don't also, with him, I know he's played a lot for Bay of Plenty, but first sort of season at Super Rugby, you don't want to throw. I always think when All Blacks are selected, normally there's 2 seasons of that real good form. Not saying he's out of contention, but just looking at it, you want to set them up for success is probably what I'm trying to say.
But yeah, the All Black 15 is definitely a place where you can have a go there, and I think, can continue to keep, I guess, honing his craft of what it is to be a winger, because look, geez, if this looks what it looks like for a year, I mean, obviously there's second year syndrome, but I just think, with his performances in another year of NPC underneath his belt, if he doesn't go back to sevens and then gets another year with the Chiefs, he can continue to keep growing his growth in being a winger.
You've got Kini Naholo, we've spoken about. Imoni Narawa, who's been there before, looks great. Tabataba Nawai, Radamaitavuti Nipkins. Brynner, the list goes on. What's your inkling on who they will go with or who they should go with?
I think it's just depending on what kind of style they want. Now, I think there's that power winger. So you've obviously got your power wingers that are going to be kind of in that position. So, you've got your Caleb Clarks, and probably Mark Talaiere is seen as that power winger as well. And then on that 14 side, Will Jordan has been kind of having that skill set. Well, we've kind of touched on it in terms of that run pass kick, a little bit of a different mould in terms of being able to be on that wing. So if you're looking in that, for example, you've got, Nipkins, that's over there that we've touched on. You've obviously got Shea Fihaki. We haven't even touched on Sean Stevenson, who can play on the wing and has done that for the Māoris. He's done that for the All Blacks 15. Played his test match debut against Australia on the wing. So it's depending on what kind of style they want on that right wing, because they have shown you can do obviously the power wing on both sides, but I think from what we've seen with the All Blacks traditionally, that number 14 role has shown an array of different skills than the power winger that we probably have had on that left side.
Look at the international game, and it's just you're bombarded aerially. So I think that is a very crucial part.
And so are you saying we haven't necessarily seen enough from Leroy Carter
There's
to
just
know?
hardly any contestable kicks in Super Rugby.
Yeah.
You know, so like, I just don't know.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just teams either look for territory or they do their, box kicks or short kicking game from 9, which normally allows you a pocket. It's just different.
Yeah, which is why having a fullback on the right wing makes sense, because when we do see it, they take more
But
of those.
it's always worked for us as well.
Yeah.
Like history says, Ben Smith,
Corey Jane.
Corey Jane. I put
Israel
Richard
Dag.
Kahui in that. Israel Dag, even though he wasn't a fullback, he made a great fist of probably starting that right wing sort of position like that. So it just, history suggests that's a very successful method.
Yeah. Now, you were fizzed up about the Canes too when we're talking selections on the weekend. Duplessis, Kirifi and
I was
Proctor.
probably a little bit emotional when I said that text, but I do think Duplessis, Kirifi, man, I don't know. He's just another one in rare. The thing I love about him is his post-contact meters in attack and defence. Man, when he hits people, they go back. They don't get any post-contact meters. When he carries, he gets he almost looks to go direct at people, and will go over the top of them. And then it's just his breakdown work. When it's needed, he gets a big turnover. First in the chase line. I know people I always get messages on Instagram mocking me about effort areas and bodies of motion. Should start making some t-shirts.
Yeah.
But again, he's an effort area guy. Like if the kick goes out or someone scores a try or there's a line break, man, he's there. Anyway, that's why I brought that up. And Billy Proctor.
Billy Proctor.
He's more Bryn's boy, but
Hey, you're kidding.
Oh, mate, you have been 2 or 3 years. You've loved his running lines. You've loved his ability to free up his outsides. But what I just saw on the week, well, one thing is, since he's come back, the Hurricanes win.
Yeah.
And so that's leadership. That's something that's not coachable. Like, he's got something about him that creates everyone around him to want to be better. His defensive reads, like, we know all about his running lines. Best running line midfielder, you'd have to say. His ability to free up his outside, but his defence is getting better and better. There's something about the Canes.
Yeah.
My gut says there's just something. I just feel like they're the ones that could upset this whole thing. And I mean, I'm probably going to lead you into the next thing.
Yes,
around
no, you've done a great
not needing to be a home team bully.
Yeah.
I don't think they care where they play.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time, in fact, everyone spends a lot of time talking about how important it is to get home advantage in the playoffs. And, statistically, it's better to have it than not to have it. But there's a whole bunch of statistics that say it doesn't really matter. And Bryn's team, the Crusaders, are probably the best at that, in that they have won 6 of their 12 titles away from home in finals. So they do it really, really well. But 11 teams have won away finals. So qualifying top, and that's out of 27 of the full super titles, not the ones in COVID era. The full super titles, 11 out of 27. That's a high percentage for teams winning finals away from home at an opposition ground. The title's been won by the second place qualifier 9 times. That's also pretty high in my estimate. 2 teams have won the title from outside the top 2, the Crusaders and the Highlanders, and in one year, in '99, third played 4th in the final after there were 2 away semi-final wins. So there's lots of reasons to look at that and go, okay, my team has got a chance. And if you're the Hurricanes and you're looking at it that way and you're thinking, well, I'm either going to go to the Chiefs, Crusaders or Brumbies, they might be thinking they're in a pretty good spot there, Brenna. People aren't going to be talking about them, but things have happened and they could do it too.
Oh, I definitely think they can. I think the biggest thing for them is obviously just injuries. They have had a few injuries in this back end of the year, and if there are a few that probably do get injured that are really important, it might change up in terms of how they do go depth-wise. But look, I think we've touched on a lot probably in the last couple of years. We've seen some teams that have come to rich reign of form at the back end of the year, and sometimes you don't want to play them at the back end of the year with how they're playing at that time of the year. So look, I think with Billy Proctor coming back, he's been a big part of that. I think moving Ruben Love to number 10 has been massive for that group in terms of the way that they have been playing. Look, we know that he can attack with ball in hand, but I think his decision-making, game management-wise, through his kicking game, his tactical awareness around where the boys need to go with it, whether it's a call to the forwards, to the halfback, and that game awareness has been really good management-wise for the Hurricanes. And you've also got Brett Cameron, who you can also bring on as well, and you can take Ruben Love back to fullback. So, look, I think their forward pack is doing a good job as well when it's coming into that cleaner. Look, I think I've touched on a lot in the last couple of weeks. Their 0 to 3 second ruck speed has probably been one of the best in the competition. So that balance that they have kind of found as well with Ruben Love, like I just touched on with the game management, they've been doing that really well and nicely complementing each other. So, yeah, they're going very, very good at the moment, and yeah, they're definitely one team that you probably will be a little bit nervous being able to play, because they can win it from anywhere. They've shown this year that they can win away from home. So, yep, they're hitting their straps at the right time of the year if you're a Hurricanes fan.
Reminder, 9 teams have made the final from outside the top 2. So that's 1 in 3 years a team does it. So there's plenty of history to suggest that Hurricanes team could.
Yep, there is, but there's also other statistics that they would want to tidy up, probably defensively more so, 83% defensively. Both the Reds and the Hurricanes were at 83%. So Queensland's a funny one, you know, sort of muggy conditions, but I just think, you know, 5 penalties they gave away, maybe just they can probably push the envelope a little bit more around that defensive to allow their one-on-one tackles to be a little bit easier.
The question is, who would they play and how's it going to work out? A reminder, in the top 6, it's 1v6, 2v3, 2v5, sorry, and 3v4 in that first week, right? So we've got to look at who is going to.
I think they go to Canberra.
They go to Canberra, they play the Brumbies, and that's based on the fact that you think the Chiefs will beat the Highlanders.
I think the Chiefs will finish top, and I think the Crusaders will, and Brendan will probably touch on this better because he knows the Crusaders' environment better than me, but I think teams have worked out how important Davey Havili is, and they're really trying to shut him down.
Yeah, to a certain extent, I think the collision area is a big thing. And actually talking to Ryan Crotty earlier in today in terms of the brutality around the collision area. It was always a big factor for us when I was playing there, being able to win that, because it sets everything up. It sets up your kicking game, and I think their kicking game this year, they've actually played a lot of games where they've won the kicking battle through their contestable games with Noah Hotham, being able to go through the effort areas. I know they probably don't want to be tackling at 200 tackles every single game, but that effort defensively that they have shown throughout the year, and especially on the weekend against the Highlanders, look, the Highlanders should have won that game pretty convincingly with the amount of opportunities that they had, the entries that they had into the 22, the amount of ball that they had, the amount of tackles that the Crusaders made. But what they have shown this year, and the Crusaders of old that had won that have won championships defensively. I don't know how many times that I saw in that game on the weekend as well, the scramble, the care to get back to be able to try and stop tries. I think Tom Christie was a good example of that. They did I think Tavatava Nawa, they made a 100-metre line break. They weren't able to score off that. So that's a really pleasing aspect for the Crusaders. But I think that collision area, Ross, and just watching probably the blueprint of the Chiefs, if they can get anywhere to kind of that brutality around the breakdown, I think they've definitely got enough there. And hopefully Will Jordan comes back in that semi-final to quarter-final stage, because look, I know Johnny McNichol, he's done a good job being there, but I think they're going to need Will Jordan to win this competition, especially if they do make it to that stage of being in a final against the Chiefs. And hopefully, that's what they're wanting, but that's what I'm seeing at the moment.
Brent, I feel like you've read my little stats notes here, because I made a little comparison with the Chiefs around the collision area, and the Chiefs had 35% of their carries were dominant. 8% for the Crusaders, dominant carries.
Yeah.
So just to show what Bryn's trying to, you are going to, and I think the Brumbies are a great test, and this is why I think Crusaders are such a smart side, and so many smart players. I just sense they would have learned a lot. They got the win, not pretty, and probably gifted in terms of missing penalty kicks and conversions, but they got the win. Yeah. So they're still in the hunt. And I just think that you're going to see this forward pack really know, and I think, led by Tamaiti Williams, Cody Taylor and Scott Barrett, I think they are going to go straight up the guts. Yeah. And because they've even got a carry to pass ratio of 0.67 against the Highlanders. So that's what I was trying to sort of say, is because David's had such a good season, it's almost they've tried to get the ball there without going through. And I think once they go through and you provide time for someone like Davey Havili, he'll just manipulate any defence
Yeah.
in World Rugby.
Now, look, it'll make a pretty boring podcast if we read out all of the permutations. So what I might do is copy and paste the list of the permutations into the description below on YouTube and into that on the audio pod as well. If you want to have a look at how it can all happen, then that's good for you. Basically, all you really need to know is if the Chiefs win with a bonus point, it doesn't matter what else happens as far as who comes top. But when you look a little bit further down and you look at Moana Pacifica and the Blues and the Tars, there's lots of different permutations. And what the Blues will be hoping is that it doesn't come down to the fact that they're there on bonus points more so than wins. And if they end up equal with Moana Pacifica or the Tars, then they end up in a place where they don't make it because they've got one less win than those other two teams. So that's kind of what you need to know in the most part. Looking at the Highlanders, though, who continue to be the best worst team in the league, one person stood out for me, and he stood out all season. And I know that the All Blacks select is interested, and we know that he's been in All Blacks 15. Fabian Holland-Brynner, once again, he's just everywhere at lock for the Highlanders.
Yeah, look, I love the look of him. Look, you're talking around all facets of kind of what you need for a lock. Physicality at the breakdown, he's very, very tall. He's got a robust engine, enjoys hitting rucks. So I think all those kind of things that you want to see from your locks, he's got all those traits. So I think he was in, obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, Jip, he was in the All Blacks 15?
Yeah, so he played All Blacks 15 and then spent a couple of weeks with the All Blacks. And by all accounts, Sam Cane even made mention of him in his last speech in the All Blacks. So if he's obviously made a hell of an impression. And I agree with you, Bryn. Behind Tava Nawai, if anything, equal best player going around. And he, similar to what I was saying about Leroy Carter around what makes a great Test footballer, man, he's got a bit of Brodie Retallick about him. If you look at him statistically, so he leads Super Rugby for dominant tackles by, I think the next best is 7 or 8 behind him. He destroys people defensively. He on average, and the Highlanders have actually had a lot of possession, so this is a little bit skewed, but he's in the top 5 for rucks hit. And that's in the first 3. That's not coming and touching it as the 4th or 5th. That's destroying rucks. Normally, if he's there, you don't need too many other cleaners, if any. It's ball up. Defensive line-out work. They're very high in terms of steals. They were 3 against the Crusaders, which is a very efficient, attacking line-out with Cody Taylor there. They went to crib, but if you watch the movement and the decision-making, he is a key cog in that. Basically won them the games against the Blues' defensive line-out work. Now, for years, we had the luxury of Sam Whitelock, and players like Kieran Reid. He is very, very smart and does the work around the set piece. So, again, very probably areas that, unless you're just fixated on them, you can miss, but those are the areas you want. Numbers 1 to 5, he just does everything in the areas that you want to see at Test match level.
Yeah, we had him on the show earlier in the year, and he basically said all he wants to do is go hard until he falls over in a game. And that's what it looks like, right?
He barely ever falls over.
yeah, he just keeps on going. Which brings us to one of your viewer questions, and please send us an email at aotearoarugbypod@sky.co.nz or get into the comment section on YouTube. We've been sitting on this for a little bit. Joe Gerrard, on behalf of his 94-year-old father-in-law, Charlie, Charlie is particularly concerned about our depth at lock. He says, who do you see as our best prospects? And this last part of it is bad because we've been sitting on this question for a month. He says Charlie doesn't have too long to wait for an answer. So sorry, Charlie. We've got to you. Off the back of that, with Fabian Holland, what do you think? Do we have good depth at lock?
I think we do. You think of Naitoa Akoi. He's really come of age. We haven't seen Sam Darry due to injury, but again, I think Lachlan McConnell's played very strong rugby. I think Josh Berry, in terms of the metrics, if you look at the metrics that we got, he is very high up there. Yeah. So is Asaya Walker-Lewieri. So there's a lot of players that go under the radar that have very high post-contact meters, have high work rate in and around the breakdown. Fabian Holland's in that list. Then you've got Scott Barrett, then you've got Patrick Tuipulotu, then you've got Tupou Vaa'i. It's quite an extensive list, and Caleb Delaney's another one that, again, metric-wise, when we got every lock in New Zealand put together, a lot of the players that you wouldn't have expected, like Ngāi Akoi, Caleb Delaney, Fabian Holland, well, you probably expected Fabian Holland, Isaiah Walker-Leawere, who's obviously got called into the All Blacks. Man, they're running some of the per 80-minute performance, some of the better metrics. And then the other guys are good to go for international footy. So, and as mentioned, Sam Darry coming back from injury. She's a pretty extensive list.
Yeah.
That are good enough to play international rugby.
Tony Shafun as well. Like, I think if you're talking around like ruck efficiencies, he's the best in the competition in terms of being able to win rucks efficiently. So I think our stocks aren't actually too bad. So hopefully that can actually answer your question, Charlie, and you can sleep a little bit easier at night knowing that our locks are a little bit gooder here in New Zealand.
I suppose we have talked a lot about the things that happen between set pieces. What about at set piece itself? What about at line-out time? Which ones are these guys, the guys where you say, in an international line-out, he's going to get up, he's going to steal some ball?
Well, I think Holland, he has stolen a hell of a lot of balls. So is Shalfoon, actually. He's disrupted a lot of line-outs. I think, for me, the maturity and growth of Ngāi Akoi's game, like, man, he put up so much pressure against the Moana Pacifica line-out that has been functioning. As probably, Tom Savage is a very, very smart operator of manipulating hinge players, and I think this has been the biggest growth. We know Ngāi can run, we know he can tackle, but in terms of his breakdown work and his set piece work, not only at line-out time, but scrum time, he has been a player that has come on in leaps and bounds this season in those areas.
Yeah. Brynette, if you're picking 4 specialist locks, your specialist locks would be the 3 guys first up and Fabian Holland, would they?
I think you look at his physical traits and his mindset. It's pretty hard to go past him to at least get an opportunity. And obviously you've got Josh Lord there, Izzy has been in there. He got called into the All Blacks as well. So there obviously are guys that are playing really well that could get given an opportunity. But look, I think Fabian Holland deserves an opportunity, and there'd be no better test. I think put him against the French, and I think he's ready for that. Considering he's played All Black 15, has put back-to-back, campaigns for the Highlanders, and so I think he's ready. So he'd be my 4th pick, Ross.
And to have an All Black who grew up in the Netherlands, who decided to come down here to go to school and have a crack at his random dream for a person from the Netherlands is quite an amazing story. But speaking of kind of global playing, the World Club Championship, it was announced that this is likely to happen every 4 years starting in 2028. 16 teams, 8 from the European Champions Cup, 8 from Super Rugby in Japan. What do you think about it, Chipper?
It is all Christmases come at once for me. Like, I don't know, I love World Cups, but something like this every 2 years, it is just the old debate.
Yeah.
And I do not care what time zone it's in.
Yeah.
I'm up. I am ready to rock and roll for this competition like you wouldn't believe. And Bryn, as a current player, how mouth-watering is that? Like, you would absolutely walk over broken glass, fire, whatever you want to get this up and running.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I think, probably looking at my time at the Crusaders, you're going through kind of, I guess, winning games. You're kind of looking at the Northern Hemisphere of the Champions Cup and wondering, would we be able to beat a Leinster? Would we be able to beat a Toulouse or Toulon, whoever it may be at that time that was winning it? So I think 4 years, Jip, is a little bit too long, because I think it's pretty hard to keep the same nucleus of players for that long period of time. But I think every 2 years, you get a really good understanding, I guess, who the best club in the world is at that time, because you're getting to see the players that I guess are successful at that time. And I guess maybe not, if it's 4 years, you might be on the end of your run, or you might have missed that window where you're a really good team for 2 years, and, the 4 years is probably a little bit too long. But to answer your question, I'd love to do it. I'd love to test yourself in different environments as well, in a different country, playing in the French or playing in England or wherever it may be, Edinburgh, wherever it may be. It'd be an awesome experience of touring as well, and being able to experience that as a Super Rugby player if you're not playing for the All Blacks as well.
Bryn, the fans, I reckon, will dictate how regular it is. I think let's just get it up and running.
Yeah.
Prove concept.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because, and it might be every first year after a World Cup and then the third year. You don't want to take away from a World Cup, because I think this will be huge. I think it will be huge.
Yeah.
Like, this would just be, I'd love it every year. But it's got to, if it can prove concept and has the interest and has the eyes, there's no reason why it doesn't get to there.
So how does it work, though? I mean, there's a lot of travel. People live in very different places. and there are lots of different competitions going on. How will
I think
it actually work?
there will have to be a lot of give and take in terms of how it works initially. That's why I don't want to get into. In my head, I'm just thinking, let's not. Sometimes with these things, you can find every reason not to do it.
Yeah.
Like let's just. I'm gonna be the one person over here just with. Let's just get it up and running, and work through the issues as it is. But travel's one. Where stadia. If it's going to be as popular as it is, can it come down in the Southern Hemisphere? Timing. We don't have it into the global calendar.
Yeah.
There's a hell of a lot of issues.
Yeah. Do you run the competitions that are already running in the background at the same time?
How does it look? Do you lose? How many games do you lose? All that. But I just think from a concept, it would just be so good.
Yeah.
Like I know Jerome Kano was texting on our alumni chat, obviously heavily involved with Toulouse. Can we sort out a Blues-Toulouse game? Find out who's best. Like, everyone wants it.
Let's say it's this year, and we're looking at the teams who were the top 8, the quarterfinalists in Europe, the teams who are currently the top 6 in Super Rugby, and Toshiba and Kubota who are going into the final in Japan right now. And we're to put all of those teams in. Who would you pick as your top 4? If you look at the Chiefs, the Crusaders, and the Brumbies, and how they would go against Bordeaux, Northampton, Leinster, Toulouse.
Well, I don't know. That's why I need the competition. Yeah. I need it ASAP.
Fishing here.
Yeah, I know you're fishing. You're fishing. I think Super Rugby would hold its own.
Yeah,
I do. And this is the thing, is it's just going to be opinions until it gets done. And right behind Super Rugby, Ross.
Yeah, that's right. Brynna, what are you thinking? Having seen what you've seen across your competition, Super Rugby in Europe, if you were to pick 4 teams to be the semi-finalists right now across those comps, who would you put in there?
I think the Chiefs, for Super Rugby, with the way they're playing at the moment, I think they'd be in the top 4. I think they would definitely be in the top 4. Bordeaux, the champions, Northampton played a really good brand of footy. Obviously, I think those two would be there, and then I think it'd be between Leinster and the Crusaders, I reckon. And I'd go the Crusaders. Just the fact that they've proven that they've won. Whereas the Leinster, very similar to Ireland, unfortunately, can't get the job done in big games. So I'd pick the Crusaders for 2 and 2.
I reckon the Canes will be there or thereabouts. You need a big pack.
Yeah.
I've got big explosive loosies. You'd need a Walker Leaweri. And we know what their front row can do with Lomax, Almoa, Numia. I just think it would be, we talk about physical, it would be physical on steroids.
It's like a styles make fights thing. Some teams might be better in Europe than they would be in Super Rugby.
100%.
Seriously though, who would you pick as your 4 though? If you had to pick, who would be your 4?
Well, because I think it needs to be crossover, it's obviously going to be 2 and 2. Chiefs, no doubt, there. And then for me, currently, I think it would be between Crusaders, Canes, and Brumbies.
Yeah.
And definitely Bordeaux. I think Leinster. Sorry, Loms. But if DuPont's there, Toulouse.
Toulouse, right. Yeah. Actually, watching the final this morning and seeing Luku and Jalibert and Bielbieri and Pinot, that game, if they were to play the Chiefs, would be so entertaining. Be so entertaining. Bordeaux played great footy, and with all of the chat about who's coming down from France, the depth in French rugby, seeing Luku and Jalibert's stepping this morning was outrageous, and that pass over the top.
And there's a growing desire up there that they want a series win in New Zealand. I don't think it's, I think we're going to see a very, very strong French team come down here. Well, you think about it, mate. You think about that Irish series, and for that Irish team, mate, the French want a piece of that.
You reckon we'll see a bit of a full strength?
I don't know. It'll be up to the clubs, won't it? Like, let's be honest. I don't know. We could do a whole podcast on the World Club Championship.
When we probably should. And we will, and it'll go on forever.
Yeah.
We need a part 2.
That's me segueing us out of it.
We're going to get out of that now, and we're going to get into the Black Ferns, because what we saw on the weekend with the Black Ferns absolutely smashing the USA in Pack 4 was Jorja Miller, the World Sevens Player of the Year, make her Test debut. Now, she had been a very promising open side for Canterbury before she went over to the Sevens. She stepped into that realm, and I know USA weren't that good, but Brynna, Jorja Miller
Unbelievable.
is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. It's a word that you'd use. Like, I know Portia scored the 7 tries, and that's been touched on a lot. But man, she is just so good. Like, if she's not starting 7, and obviously know that obviously the captain's at 7 as well. But that loose forward trio is going to be really tough to select without her, because like,
it has to be in it.
what she can bring on both sides of the ball. They just don't have a person that can do that in that 7 position. And look, I just think you've got to have your best players on the ground, especially with what we're going to see at the World Cup and the kind of level of team that we are going to see with England and France, and obviously even the Canadians that pushed us a fortnight ago. So I think the only a couple of areas, like, I know it's hard to take from what we saw. There's obviously a lot of points scored and some really good attacking phases and tries, but I think the line out is going to be a big area for their Black Ferns team. I think in the last 3 games, they've been operating at 59%. They were at 67 on the weekend. And so, look, I think against an English, against a French, against a Canadian team, we've got to be able to win our set piece ball, because we can score tries. We've scored 23 tries in the last 3 games. So the attacking side of it isn't going to be an issue for us, but the breakdown, the set piece area is going to be big for us. And I think also the kicking. Now, we've seen a little bit of that in the first probably 2 games, not probably as much against the Americans, but I think the ability to kick on the run and being able to exit our area is going to be a big part of us trying to win this Rugby World Cup. So I don't know what you're thinking, Jippy, but those are probably just a couple of things that I would take away with them moving forward to this Rugby World Cup.
I'll come back to Jorja Miller.
Yes.
I've got a bit of a
Let's go.
insight there that I'm very fond of. But on that, Bryn, I made a decision over the weekend that I think we bin the kicking.
Yeah.
It's just not working. And it was the one game, so there were 9 kicks for 249 metres. We got 72% gain line, nearly 70% conversion in the 22. Are we just need to throw quick lineouts? Do we need to get back and throw and just attack at all costs? Because that's what they did, and they scored 70-odd points.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it just seems like the side just came to life.
Yeah, do they need to play the structured rugby that every other team in the country plays, that we see in Super Rugby, that we see...
Look, I was all for the kicking.
Yeah.
So I was on that train, I'm not going to lie. Just watching England, I'm like, man, you're going to have to manipulate that backfield. Defensively, they're strong. You have to get out of your... I'm starting to think, with what I saw on the weekend with Jorja Miller, with Stacey Waka, with Fitzpatrick, and I know I'm naming the Sevens players, but man, you literally can attack from anywhere.
Yeah, Portia Woodman.
Portia Woodman. I think Vaha Kolo's best game. You've still got Letienga there. You know, I think Braxton Sorensen McGee, she's run at all costs and electric and can set things up. Poultry Lane at 9. You know, probably not looking to box kick. You know, play it up tempo, pace. I don't know. It just, man, it looked good. It looked really good, and looked like there wasn't too much focus on the kicking. Sorry, Bryn's about to say kick at all costs.
If they are going to do that, Jip, they're just going to have to be really good around their turnovers, because obviously if you hold on to the ball, you give yourself more opportunities to be able to lose the ball into contact and being able to give opportunities to, I guess, other teams through set piece, whether that's scrums with the English or being able to give away breakdown turnovers, which we saw against the Canadians. They had a lot of turnovers. I think there were 10 turnovers each. And if they are going to go into the line out more, which we know England can do and score tries, it's going to be very difficult with them to, I guess, try and to win results through that way.
There's a method to my madness, because if you look at the USA tries, man, it was from set piece. So I'm just thinking, if you get the ball back in there and you don't go to set pieces down the field that's not your ball, that's, to me, a win. They get a couple of turnovers. The phase play D is actually solid. You know, the tries have all come from set piece. So to me, kicking actually gets you back to set piece. So that doesn't make logical sense to me.
Yeah.
It's not playing to the strengths.
Yeah.
It is risky, Bryn. I get it. It's very much against my DNA.
Yeah.
So it's weird that I'm saying this, but it just looks like it suits everyone. It looks like it brings energy and life into the group.
I don't want to glamorise and look back on rose-tinted glasses on that World Cup win, but they should have lost to France with that kick. And they managed a line-out steal on their own line in the dying moments against England. Those things probably may have got kind of left behind. they put themselves in positions to lose using that game plan.
It
They
definitely
got
does.
there, but they put themselves in positions to lose.
But I'm just saying, is the kick strategy method putting ourselves in position to win?
Yeah. No.
It doesn't seem like it. Doesn't look like it. What I saw on the weekend looks like a team that can win.
Yeah. Okay. What about Jorja Miller?
Oh, yeah. I just think 3 try assists is a 7. Like, could she literally play 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15?
Yeah. Most likely.
I feel like, literally, is there an athlete in world rugby that could do that?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I think she could be world class at any of those positions.
Yeah.
Like 3 try assists, support lines, line breaks, who's in the picture, who's celebrating, who's doing the game with a smile on their face. It was infectious to watch.
Yeah.
It was the most engaging performance of an individual. And I know the highlight reel was Portia's try, but for me, I was just like, wow.
Yeah. The way she glides through the holes, Brenna, like she just makes it look so easy.
When you see a good player, right, when it looks so easy. And like, she hasn't played, when was the last time she would have played 15?
Oh, mate, it's like years.
Like years. So like to be able to come back and I guess have a couple of camps, being able to get a couple of training runs, a couple of live scenario runs, to be able to go out and put a performance on there. Now, look, I know USA were
But they held their
way.
own against Aussie and Canada. Like it's
did,
easy to say it's USA. I think we're not paying enough credit to that USA side, and enough credit to the performance that the Black Ferns put on. Like they held their own in those other 2 games. It was a very, very, very good performance from the Black Ferns.
So with Jorja Miller, what does that mean for Kennedy Tukuafu? I mean, co-captain, is she on the bench?
Well, I think you can find room for both.
Yeah.
Like, because if you look at Kennedy, especially against the Canada game, I think without her defensively and her scramble D and her ability to break down, they lose that game. They don't have the ability to come back and draw. So, you know, but there's Olsen Baker, Leila Sahi, Mikiala too. It's almost like the All Blacks, you know. Like, but I think Jorja Miller has to be there.
Yeah.
And obviously the captain has to be there, and Kennedy. So,
yeah,
I don't know. You can't ignore that performance.
I don't think you could take Olsen Baker out as well.
No.
With the way that she's playing. She's in tremendous form. So, yeah, it's going to be, you'd have to think Jorja Miller will be at 7, and it's obviously Sa'i, Makari Tu'u, and obviously, being able to go in that kind of situation as well.
I think she could be at 6. Tukuafu is I think, staying would be a specialist 7 because she didn't play a traditional 7's role.
No, she
was
didn't.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think she could be a line-out option as well. Like she's very tall, and we're talking about line-out issues. Like if there's the development and growth, and you get another line-out option, I think 6 could genuinely be a good spot.
Something that works for her.
She's not going to lose. She's dominant carries all day long.
Yeah.
Interplay, defence.
She's got
between
it all.
World Club comp and the Black Ferns performance, I could go all day.
So many exciting things. The other thing was the 7 tries from Portia Woodman. I mean, speaking of world-class 7s players, world-class 15s players, arguably the greatest women's player of all time, looked $1 million at 34 years old, 34, and still was beating people on the outside like it was absolutely nothing.
If Portia can play a big impact in winning and retaining the World Cup, she's getting put in the Brady box.
People want to write you off at 30,
Sports
but
science,
you can go away.
Sports science.
Absolutely.
Just look at Brenner. He's the ring maker.
Going, lads.
He's the chip maker. He's the championship maker.
Yeah, and he's got his first scar at the age of 33.
Yeah. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
When we come back next season, it won't even be there. I'm not suggesting anything, Bryn, of course, but it's like it never happened.
Yeah, there aren't many lines.
Need to look a little bit rugged. Need to look a little bit rugged, lads. A bit rugged, eh? Give the change up.
You literally look 24. I don't think your forehead's moved once.
Look at you, Jeffer. Thanks, mate. Thanks. Always got my back. Go on, yeah.
Right, Ross, we're going down.
Right, yeah, let's go to the
holes.
picks, Ross. What do we got?
We're going down rabbit holes.
We're going to go.
Get us on the picks, Ross. We're on the picks.
We got to go to Rugby Ready before the picks. So let's go to a Rugby Ready. A few older players might just want a piece of our Rugby Ready prize as well. A few weeks ago, we started our partnership with All Blacks trainer Dr. Nick Gill and his Rugby Ready team. And each week, we'll give away a free 4-week training program membership or 1 free training ebook. To win for yourself, a family member or a friend, follow @Rugby Ready on Instagram, then direct message ARP as well as this week's entry word line out, and find out why you're a good choice to be the winner. A huge congratulations to this week's winner of the Rugby Ready giveaway, Cassidy Melasia. You've scored the ultimate rugby conditioning bundle. Cassidy's an 18-year-old aspiring player who wants to wear the black jersey one day and wants to help with his training journey on the way there. So thanks again to everyone who entered. We loved reading your stories. And if you didn't win this round, don't worry, you're still in the running. So keep those amazing submissions coming in, and it could be your name we announce next week. Next week's prize is the 4 weeks of free access to the Rugby Ready Perform membership. So plenty to be won there, and thank you all for entering so far. Send those messages through to Rugby Ready, use the keyword, tell us why you should win, and we're off from there. Jipper, tell me why this week the Chiefs are going to beat the Highlanders in Dunedin.
Because top spot's on the line.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be tight though. Like poor old Highlanders, like they could be in the finals picture easily. I think they'll look back, again on the weekend, 13% conversion rate. They're getting there.
Yeah.
They're just not getting the points they deserve from that pressure. And I don't see the Chiefs going backwards. Just the focus and the edge that Clayton McMillan and the players had after the game, and almost looking to the negative. I don't know how, but not the negative, but the area of work on.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of frustrations in that performance from their perspective. So there's just a fine edge. And I think as much as we see away teams can win, I think playing at home makes it easier.
Well, Jipper's been tipping really well recently, so you go with that. He's up to 57 on the tipping comp. Matty 3337's got a 1-point lead, and if he gets ahead this week, he'll be the guy coming on the show to tell us what he thinks about Super Rugby.
Anyway,
Chip cannot.
My emails did not work. The system does not allow them to change it.
Oh no! So you keep on fighting that good fight, mate.
Oh, I just can't let things go.
Brynner's made a big move as I've fallen away. Brynner's up to 110th. Bryn, this week Highlanders versus Chiefs. What are you picking?
Yeah, I'm going the Chiefs. Look, I agree with Chip. I don't think they're going backwards, and I think look, in saying that, I think the Highlanders the last 2 weeks have been good. Like they've got themselves into positions to be able to score points, but high turnover rate and efficiency inside the 22 that Jip touched on. It's been an Achilles heel for them this year. So
Brumbies versus Crusaders, Brynner. Your Crusaders going to head over there and get that win?
Yeah, they'll do a job over there, mate, and they'll finish second, and the Brumbies will finish third.
Crusaders by 2.
Crusaders by 2. Nice and close.
Yeah, about the 76th, 77th minute, James O'Connor a penalty to win it.
Right, so we're now looking at the Chiefs, the Crusaders, the Brumbies being the top 3 in that order. Yep. Okay, the Blues versus the Waratahs is the next game. Blues at home against the Tars.
The Blues, I think they'll win, but I think it's very important they get a bonus point.
Blues. I don't know if they can get a bonus point or not, but the Blues will win. Right,
Hurricanes versus Moana Pacifica.
I think it's going to be a lot tighter. I think the Moana will come back and throw in the kitchen sink at the Hurricanes. Look, I even think, Moana could win, but, I think they're going to need a bonus point to get through to this next stage, I believe. So, but yeah, I think with the Hurricanes, with the way that they're performing, with the way that they're playing, and they'll want some confidence going to that quarterfinal stage. So yeah, I'll be picking the Hurricanes in a very tight match. They're going to be very close, but I'll pick the Hurricanes 1-12. Brett
Cameron, drop goal, golden point. Just spicing things up today.
Just going to spice it up, right. So that's a Hurricanes win.
That's a Hurricanes win.
Yeah, fair enough. And lastly, the Reds versus the Drua. There's not going to be an upset.
Drua.
You're going to take the Drua?
I'll pick the Drua. I'm just going for...
Just to try to make way up the ladder?
Yeah. I'll just make my 1 point back that I fairly earned that I'm not getting.
Or you can drop back because that's a ridiculous pick.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't really change anything. The Reds are through. So.
Yeah. What about for you, Brenner?
Yeah, they're going the Reds. They're at home, so yeah, I can't see Fiji being
Yeah, fair enough. Well, that's our show for the week, the Aotearoa Rugby Pod, brought to you by Ashley and Martin Medical Hair Centres. Of course, they've been sponsoring the show throughout the year, and we really appreciate their support. We appreciate your support for watching the show. Thank you to everyone who helps put the show together. Of course, send in your emails to aotearoarugbypod@sky.co.nz. Get into the comments section. We might bring you into the show next week with us. Mā te wā.